Welcome to Don't Do Disney
Without Us.
My name is Daniel.
And my name is Zach.
And welcome back to our show. This is a show we like to talk about all things in the Disneyverse, be that the movies, the theme parks, the streaming services, pretty much everything except the sports. We're not really big sports fans. Although I did sign up for a Run Disney thing, so maybe in the future we'll have, sports adjacent kind of things, but that's not important right now. What is important is that it's a great show where we like to talk about all things Disney. And you know what? Today we have a very special guest. We have Dirk Libbey joining us. Dirk writes for
CinemaBlend's.
CinemaBlend's. See, it was right on the tip of my tongue there. I should have been more prepared. But yeah, Dirk writes for CinemaBlend. You cover the theme park beat over there, correct?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. So we will be talking to him about that here today. So yeah, there you go. I was just waiting for the theme song to end, and now it's ended, and now we go on. Anyway, hi, how are you, Dirk?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
I am excellent. This is odd for us. We usually record in the evening time, so there's this uncontrolled wall of light over here hitting me.
I think that's called the sun.
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with it, but it's in here, and we'll see how that works. So you work for a news outlet, right? CinemaBlend is a news outlet. First of all, help me understand this, because I am but a simpleton on the internet. When I see one of the 650 news stories about Disney on Google News, some of them come from just like blogs, right? Like Inside the Magic, WDWNT, kind of, even Disney Food Blog. None of these is like original type reporting. It's more just like repeating press releases kind of a thing, right?
Well, I mean, I honestly feel, that kind of there is the line between what is a blog and what is a news site is a little flexible. Mm-hmm. There are some, depending on where you look, you will occasionally see CinemaBlend referred to as a blog. Okay. And it was ultimately, years before I came on board, it was started by, just a guy who started writing about movies on the internet. And we've just grown to a point where I think CinemaBlend gets, opportunities primarily in the movie and TV space, because that's where the focus has always been, to get invited to the press junkets and the media opportunities and interview the stars. And so ultimately I think CinemaBlend has reached a level of audience that studios take notice of us and make sure that we are included in all of these things.
Okay.
And so that's just kind of where we're at.
So when you write a story about theme parks, is it something that you're assigned? Is it something that you get to decide, I think I see that this is trending and I want to go and investigate this? Or is it just come from press releases and, press events and stuff like that? Like how do you decide what it is you're going to write about?
It's a little bit of everything. I'm in Northern California, so I'm not actually next to any of the major theme parks. Mm-hmm. So I'm not in them every single day the way some of the sites out there are. So what I usually do on a normal day is I'm checking those other sites to see what information is out there, or checking to see if, Disney sends me a press release on something. And then usually what happens is, I have editors that I have to run everything by. And so it's usually a case of, hey, I'd like to write about this. Okay. And then they look at it and they kind of go, they'll, help me find the right angle for it, or look at it and go, I don't think anybody cares. Don't write that. Or, or whatever. The theme park side specifically, because I am sort of the guy in charge of it. I'm sort of the only guy technically in it. I do have a bit more freedom to kind of write what I want. But, so it's usually a case of, hey, I'm going to write about this. And an editor looks at it and goes, okay, fine.
Okay.
Some of our folks within the CinemaBlend are theme park geeks like me, and others are not. So I usually try to run run stuff through like Jessica Rodden, one of our managing directors, is a theme park person. So if I want to get a second opinion from somebody who knows what I'm talking about, I will try to run things through her. And she likes theme parks, but she's not sort of super into them. So she has sort of the kind of more public layman perspective on theme parks.
Mm-hmm.
And so like my super nerd and her sort of more general audience come together and find like the right way to tackle a story that will, actually interest people. Because sometimes the super nerds will find my story and it'll do really well. But generally speaking, if I want a story to get a lot of attention, it's got to be more sort of general audience folk.
Now, that's interesting because I would assume as a layman reading headlines that the things that do well are the things that in some way are negative. I feel like there's way more engagement. Like when I'm just looking at my YouTube suggestions, because I watch a lot of theme park YouTube channels, things that YouTube surfaces up to me all tend to be, Disney is failing, or Disney, sucks, or Universal is the greatest ever, or Universal is bad. It's like, it always seems like there's the more negative spin there is on it. It's like an adage. What's the old adage? Like if it bleeds, it leads, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So is that true? Like, do you find that when you write an article that's critical of something, it gets more engagement than an article that is, positive towards something?
Oh, generally speaking, that is unfortunately absolutely true.
Now, you would be in the unique position to know something that I couldn't know. I can obviously see on negative videos and whatnot that there's way more engagement as far as comments go, right? That like this negative video has had, 6,000 views and it's had, just hundreds and hundreds of comments. But what I don't know is whether that negative one actually gets more views, right? If they're not showing their views, right? So so you would know analytically there on your site, do positive articles do just as well readership wise? And it's just that people just don't have anything to add to those? Or is it, is it a perception that the negative things are doing better? Or is it in reality that negative things get read more? I see what you're saying. And yeah, I think, I'd have to go back and look at actual numbers to really compare. But generally speaking, yeah, like the negative stuff does tend to get looked at more. Okay. Which is kind of a bummer for me because that's not the stuff I like writing. Yeah.
There is other stuff like, and I'm trying to start to do more of it these days. I used to do more months ago, just sort of writing like kind of just general informational stuff, kind of the history of this park or this ride or that kind of thing. And that stuff can do really well. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I haven't quite figured out the special sauce on those sorts of stories. But when it comes to like general news, yeah, the negative stuff tends to get, at least initially, more engagement. I think what tends to happen with that stuff is like, when those stories blow up, they blow up fast and then they die.
Yeah.
The other stuff can do well over a longer period of time. Not necessarily always, but it can occasionally, if it's something that might engage people over days and weeks. Right. It can eventually get to us kind of, a successful point, but it tends to take longer.
So what do you find your breakdown is between the theme parks? So obviously there's major theme parks like Universal and Disney, but then there's also, smaller theme parks out there, SeaWorld, Busch Gardens, Six Flags, Dollywood. What is your, just, I'm not looking for an exact number here, but like, do you mainly write about the big ones and just a little bit of small ones or more?
Yeah, at this point, it's between Disney and Universal, that's almost all of it.
Okay.
I try to write about the other parks when I find an opportunity, and I will say that I have noticed that those stories can do well. Mm-hmm. So that's actually kind of my goal for myself with the theme park section over the next however long is to kind of grow that side of it and also, get noticed as a media person by those parks. Because Dollywood doesn't send me press releases yet. I'm trying to find the right person to poke and be like, hey,
it's Dolly. It's just Dolly.
Just send Dolly an email.
Send a tweet to Dolly Parton and be like, hi, I'd like on your media list, please.
Yes, please send me your press releases.
There.
So I could be, I do write about the other parks occasionally, and it does occasionally do well. So I do want to grow that so that I give those guys a bit more kind of airtime, because I think, most of them are worth it. Like, places like Dollywood or Hershey Park, they are, technically speaking, regional parks, but they have a national kind of audience. You don't have to be in Tennessee, be interested in what's going on at Dollywood.
Yeah, I would say, what's that big coaster park in Sandusky? Kings Point? Is that?
That one's
Dominion?
What's the?
King's Dominion, Cedar Point.
Cedar Point. Is that, if you're a coaster fan, even though that is a hyper local regional park, right? It was like, if you're a coaster fan, of that, right?
Right. Cedar Point, Cedar Point and Cedar Fair company stories in general tend to do well. As I've noticed. I mean, like when Cedar Fair and SeaWorld were in talks to, merge at one point, like I wrote about that just as sort of this is interesting news. I was a little bit surprised to see like that story did kind of well. I was like, oh, okay, people are into this stuff. They care, which, I mean, that's how I got into the theme park beat in general. I mean, when I got hired at CinemaBlend, I was writing about movies and TV, but I was a theme park person. And, we would occasionally write theme park stories when it had a connection to the movie. So like when Galaxy's Edge was just getting underway and like all we had were rumors about it, I'd write that story because, hey, if you're a Star Wars fan, you might be interested in what is happening with Star Wars at this theme park.
Absolutely.
So those were the stories that I started writing, and we noticed there was an audience for it. And then we kind of tried a couple of test stories. I remember it was the Disneyland hotel that didn't happen. You guys remember a few years ago, there was going to be a fourth hotel that they were going to build. And then they had
a whole new entrance and a new hotel. And
they were going to they cleared out, a big section of downtown Disney because they were going to build this hotel.
Yeah. And then Anaheim said no or something.
Yeah. They ended up I think they ended up moving where the hotel was going to be. And when they did that, they lost their tax breaks. And when they lost their tax breaks, they went, fine, we'll just not build it.
Right.
And so I wrote about this hotel that, ended up not happening, and people read the story and it was like, okay, well, hey, if there's an audience for it, keep doing it. And that eventually led to theme parks becoming its own section on the site.
Now, do you get invited to these theme park press events?
I do. Generally, where I think we've gotten to a point now where Disney and Universal on both coasts keep us in mind and generally invite us to stuff.
So, all I see from it are the videos, right? I'll read the stories of people saying the same things that happen on the videos. So these big press events that happen, what are they like? What is the thing? Do they fly you out there and put you up and, usher you through all these things? Or is it more, hey, yeah, we'll put you up out here for hotel. You fly out here, we'll put you up in a hotel, and then we'll have some people available to answer questions. Like what level of involvement are with these press events?
It depends on the event. They kind of run the gamut from one end to the other. If it's a big, if what they're promoting is something big, then it tends to be, hey, yeah, we'll fly you out, we'll put you up, we'll show you everything, we'll make sure that you see whatever it is you need to see. So like I didn't go to the event, but like I had to send somebody else. But when Cosmic Rewind opened,
right,
like did that one, Disney World did a big thing, and they covered all the costs to send somebody out and check out the ride it 15 times, and so they would hear all the songs and do all that stuff. When it's a smaller event, then it's usually just hey, we're having an event. you are welcome to come, and we'll let you in the door. And I'm close enough to Disneyland that I've done some of those because it's an easy flight down when I want to do them. But then it means I'm not at my desk writing, so I have to talk my bosses into letting me do it.
Right.
So
the popular wisdom, I'll say, of the internet is that if you are on the guest list, if you're on the press list for these things, you don't dare write anything even slightly negative about it, or else they'll take you off the guest list, and then you won't be able to go to future events. There are numerous vloggers out there and bloggers out there who are convinced that the only reason that they're no longer on the guest list is because, they deigned to say something slightly bad about them. I could make the argument, the reverse of that is that they were just being patently unfair about some of these things. And of course, if you're just going to go out and make shit up, you're going to kind of get kicked off the list. But do you worry about that? Do you, like, if Cosmic Rewind made you nauseous, would you feel hesitant to write about that in your article? Like, is that in the back of your mind? Is like, if I say that this is just a vomit comet, is that, going to...
It's really not. I've never seen any evidence of that in my entire time writing about any of this stuff. I mean, I have gone to, I've done press junkets for movies. Mm-hmm. And then said not very nice things about the movie because I didn't like it.
Thor 11th Thunder, the worst movie ever made, that one?
And so, I mean, I will say, generally speaking at CinemaBlend, specifically on movies, we try to have the person who went on the junket not be the person who wrote the review to specifically prevent any sort of bias. That doesn't always work out due to like embargo times and whatnot, but that we do try to do that. But I've never give you an example so far. Like I went down to Disneyland beginning of this month on the first day of Halloween to do all their Halloween stuff, and I wrote a piece that I don't think it was super negative, but the gist of my article was, if you have been to Disneyland for Halloween in the recent past, you've seen everything there is to see.
Yeah, this is
like they didn't do anything particularly new this year.
Right.
The stuff they did is cool. I like it. If you haven't seen it, you should go see it. But if you've seen it, there's nothing new.
Right.
I could tell Disneyland wasn't super happy with that. But they're not ignoring me. I'm still getting press releases. I'm still getting emails. They're still talking to me. They may not be thrilled that I wrote something that was not glowing. I'm sure to some extent they're not, but there's no evidence that they are, ready to kick me off the list because I said some things that were not super nice.
Yeah, I feel like this kind of borders on that whole, impartiality judge kind of a thing, right? It's like there's a difference between being impartial and, being negative about something, right? Yeah. It's like if you can be impartially negative about something without resorting to, I'll give you a stupid example just because it was something that stuck out to me. Is there were several YouTubers that were saying, after a 3-year delay for D23, we finally have, this, and they're not giving us very much information. I was like, well, wait a second. D23 was a biannual event. And so at best you could say it was delayed a year. Because
there was a reason.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It had nothing to do with Disney.
Exactly. But I'm just like, that to me is a very biased. You're coming at it from a very biased that you're taking the worst possible light that you could do on this, even like basically stretching the truth by saying there was a 3-year delay. It's like, no, if past this prologue, it would have been in 2021 and it wasn't. It's in 2022, so it was a year delayed. You could maybe get away with that, but that's, I guess, the difference between.
Well, I think it goes back to what you asking me about earlier, just about negative stories causing more engagement.
Yeah,
that is absolutely true. And so I think what happens is there can be interest from a site to write a story that is negative from one of these events because they know, or not, not even necessarily write a story that's negative, but to focus on the elements of something that they experienced that was negative because they know that will get more engagement.
Yeah.
And and I think that's the issue is there are going to be positive and there are going to be negative events. And that's fine. But as long as you're honest, as long as you're honest about it, then I don't think you're really going to upset anybody. It's when you're focusing on the negative only because you know that that's going to get you the clicks that you. And I get it. The negative stuff does do better. I understand that as somebody who writes this stuff and looks at these numbers every single day. And when I write a story that nobody reads, I want to go crawl in a hole.
Yeah.
Because the number isn't where I'm looking at the number and it's like, I'm like, no, I'm like,
yeah.
And that's frustrating as a writer, because that is part of how I'm judged by my employers is writing stuff that gets the clicks. Like that's how we pay the bills, including my own salary.
Right.
These are important things, and I'm not going to pretend like they're not important things. But at the same time, and this is one thing that I generally like about CinemaBlend's, like there's no, we know what we have to do and why we have to do it, but we're going to be honest. We're going to be real. We're going to write news stories and write them in a way that provides news to the people that that are reading them, and that is the most important thing. Before the next important thing is everything else that makes the numbers go up, right. But the focus is always on the content first.
And
so I feel like I've been dominating. I was going to ask you if you had any things, and then I just cut you off. So go ahead, Zach.
No, I mean that's a really refreshing viewpoint to hear, because it does seem that so many outlets related to theme parks do just focus on the negative, even if they have a good experience, because they know that's what causes engagement and because that's all that they're after. And it's like, that's one of the reasons, if I see an article of yours come across my Twitter feed, I'll go and read it, because I know from past experience with your articles specifically, even when you're negative, you don't go down to the dregs of the bottom of the barrel trying to find the absolute most positive spin to put on something.
Negative.
So,
I thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, because I try to be, as honest as I can be. And if I'm negative about something, I will say so. If but I also, I wait to pass judgment until I have enough evidence to do so. I didn't write about this as a story, but I never made sort of my own personal view on like the Enchantment or Harmonious Nighttime Spectaculars. I did not publicly post any personal opinion on whether they were good or bad shows until I saw them in person. Mm-hmm. And it took me quite some time to get down there and do that, But
now you realize that Harmonious is the greatest show ever made.
Harmonious is awesome. I think Harmonious is great. Enchantment, not so much. Though I haven't seen the new version. But and I thought Enchantment's fine. It's fine. I like fireworks, and so it's good. Harmonious, I think it was a much better show. I really enjoyed that one. And I can say that now because I have seen them in person, and I would never say that, it's like even watching like a live stream, I would not, I would not,
Disney
I would not pass judgment on that stuff based on that information. I would have to do it first.
Let me just take a moment here to say the Disney live streams are the absolute worst, most frustrating. They just randomly change camera angles with apparently no thought as to where the fireworks are going to be happening, because we'll watch the July 4th fireworks right here. It's live streaming from Disney. We'll just watch it right here in our living room. And it's like they're zooming in on the castle when there's big fireworks, and Tinkerbell flies and they're over to the side, or they're back at the Contemporary, or it's just like, who roughly what's going to happen in this show. Right. Why did you not plan ahead, or just give us a fixed angle from the end, from the train station at Magic Kingdom or something? That would be better than this jumping around, zooming in on things that aren't there. Anyway, not important. What is important, before we run out of time here, is I'm noticing a trend lately where, and this is nothing new, by the way. Apple versus Microsoft, iPhone versus Android. We as a society love to get ourselves into these, two camp kind of, head-to-head kind of a battle things. But what I'm seeing lately is this epic universe is going to, decimate Disney. Disney is sleeping. They're not, they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea what they're doing. They should be scared and they're not. And this D23 proves it. And, gosh, I can't wait to see Epic Universe wipe the floor with Disney when it happens. And I understand fandoms, and I understand, you wanting your team to be the number one over the other team, but I just don't get what they're trying to say here, because historically, every time a theme park has opened in the Central Florida area, all of the theme parks' annual visitor rates have gone up. Right? We're not at peak theme park yet. Right?
Right.
This is not Sirius and XM where you had two satellite radios with a dwindling market and something had to happen. There was going to be a winner and a loser. Right? I feel like there's a lot more room for there to be visitors at theme parks, and the numbers seem to bear that out. When Harry Potter opened, yes, Universal got a lot more people that next year. They got about 2.1 million more visitors the following year after Harry Potter opened, but so did Disney. So it's like, right. It's a rising tide lifts all boats kind of a thing. And I'm just curious, have you entertained writing about some of these things? Like, what is your take on Epic Universe? What do you think is going to happen here with Epic Universe?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be another case of just like you were describing. I mean, I think Epic Universe will open and it's going to be, a boon for Universal, but I don't think it's really going to hurt Disney all that much.
No, I don't think it's going to hurt them at all. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, unless adding, where are we? The seventh theme park, seventh big theme, unless that reaches peak theme park,
yeah.
And I don't really think it will. But I mean, I suppose technically, if that's the limit,
mm-hmm.
then we might see slight changes. But I don't see,
yeah.
It's Disney World is still Disney World. It
still,
is,
and it's a behemoth.
That's not going to change. And even if you are, I mean, if you're a vacationer from outside the area who is, okay, great, there's a brand new theme park at Universal, and we're definitely going to go make a trip and check that out. And you're not going to go to Disney World at all?
Yeah, exactly.
Like how, like, why? No, of course you are. It's Disney World. Of course you're going to also, honestly, I think people, I would think that, I mean, I don't think this is really going to happen, but it's like, I could see attendance at the other two Universal parks, remaining more stagnant.
Yeah.
Than,
absolutely.
Than Disney. I think, especially, I mean, if you're somebody who's going to Florida when Epic Universe opens, never been there at all,
mm-hmm.
then you're going to do all of it. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it blows me away actually when I see, social media stuff blow up from people, and it's like, oh, or just other fans, like, we're going to Florida for 2 weeks.
Right.
Like, that's a massive vacation.
It is.
And like, if you're like, oh, you're going to go to Disney World for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of money, and I don't have that much money to spend. I can't afford a trip that long, but people do that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you're going to go to Florida for a week, then you're just going to take, maybe one of those days, like you're going to go to all the parks.
Exactly.
You're going to go to all 7 of them over 7 days. And that's what you're going to do. And if you're going to go even longer, then like, okay, great. One of those days when you were going to go to Magic Kingdom for a second time, you're going to go to Epic Universe instead.
Right.
And that's what's going to happen. I don't see it having, and I mean, Disney World is still Disney World.
And you doing that by redirecting a single park day to Epic Universe isn't going to do anything to Disney's financials.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
They're still going to be making money hand over fist. And sure, you might see a bit of a dip when Epic Universe opens, but it's not going to be sustained.
Yeah. Well, you also have longevity in the Disney brand, right? There are people that are going to go to Disney because it is Disney, even if it declines, even if it isn't what it, necessarily used to be in some people's minds. It is still a brand that people are going, but it's, of course, it's Disney, right? It takes a long time for that luster to leave the general consensus. Look at how long we considered like IBM to be a blue chip stock. Long after IBM was, even relevant in the tech sector, it's still, the blue chip stock like IBM. It's like, well, what has IBM done in the last 20 years to warrant being a blue chip stock as opposed to, Google or Facebook or something? So it's one of those branding things where it's like Disney is a name. Disney is a household name that is going to be fine. A new theme park next to it is nothing new. There have been new theme parks coming in around it all the time, right? Islands of Adventure famously came in, right? Universal Studios Florida came in, right? It's like, and in both of those instances, Disney did better. They ended up increasing their thing. I'll get off my soapbox now, but I will be looking at your articles to see if you write any, Disney needs to be scared articles there. I'm gonna come for you, dude.
Hey, if I discover a reason that I think they should be, I will write it. I'll be happy to write about it. But I'm just happy Epic Universe is happening. I wrote a piece during the pandemic that I thought Epic Universe was dead, and by that I don't necessarily mean that they were never going to build it, but initially they gave the impression that they were going to delay production so long that my feeling was if and when we got a third Universal Park, it was going to end. It would be completely different from what Epic Universe was planned to be. Because whatever IPs they were going to put in there were going to be different because something else was popular now. I fully expected Epic Universe to be something completely different if and when it ever existed. And I will admit that I was apparently totally wrong on that because they went ahead a lot faster than they were indicating.
I think a lot of that has to do with Disney pausing because of both Disney and Universal, when they build things, don't actually build things, right? They contract out. So there are a lot of contractors in the Central Florida area, the big contracting companies, that suddenly found themselves with a lot of bandwidth that could then turn around to Universal and go, hey, we can't build over here because Disney is suspending us, but that means we're open now to help you with this. And so I feel like that's probably why Universal ended up accelerating their, I have no proof of that other than my own, thoughts on that. So that's basically just,
it certainly
but make
could
sure
be.
to write an article about that. So you heard on the internet.
Yes.
That,
the rumor is.
All right. Zach, do you have anything that I really do feel like I've just dominated this whole conversation here? Is there anything you want to add, ask, or?
So in that same vein, Disney not doing enough to compete with Universal. We're a couple weeks out from D23.
Mm-hmm.
Have your initial thoughts from after the event changed at all in the intervening couple of weeks on anything? Like where I know that a lot of us maybe immediately afterwards were feeling a little, let down or disappointed or excited. Where are you at a couple weeks out with the future of what Disney has announced so far?
I think I'm in more or less the same space, which is, sort of general non-specific optimism.
Mm-hmm.
I think too much is made of big announcements in these things. We're not always going to get huge earth-shattering blockbuster announcements at these things. That's just not the way that theme parks work. Sometimes they plan something big and massive and amazing, and other times they plan a lot of small things that are, incremental improvements.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a lot of what you're going to, that's what I expected we would mostly see. And that's mostly what we got with, a couple of potentially bigger things. So, generally I'm still sort of cautiously optimistic on it all. I think my main question is, okay, even on the stuff that they announced as, yes, we're doing this, as opposed to stuff at the end that was like nebulous blue sky. It's like, okay, when are we, when is this going to happen? like over on my coast, I'm like, okay, so we're gonna, redesign the Pacific Wharf area into San Francisco, and we're building the Avengers e-ticket and Avengers Campus finally. Okay, great. When is that going to start? Like, let's go, get it done. Let's move. Because the longer we wait, the further out it is.
Right.
And some of that stuff is not. I mean, like for something like San Francisco, I'm expecting that is going to be primarily cosmetic changes. I'm not really expecting a massive overhaul of the land. So I expect that will be a fairly fast turnaround. And so the sooner they get started, the sooner they'll be done. And I'd like to see it. I think it sounds pretty cool. I think it's fine. I want to see them, get to work on the stuff that they said that they're going to get to work on. Other than that, yeah, it's all fine.
And lest we forget, before, Epic Universe opens and overtakes Disney completely, there is another D23.
That's true.
And at that point, unless, knock on wood, we have another once-in-a-century global pandemic, capital investiture in the parks will have potentially increased much more, and Disney may be feeling more comfortable announcing very large possible future projects.
Right.
So I think you're right. I don't think this was ever going to be a high stakes D23 because of the situation in which the world found itself for the past several years, and the world does include Disney. So I think we got the best we could possibly get given everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think specifically with Disney World, I think part of the issue was, on a non-pandemic schedule, then Epcot would be done.
Yes.
And Tron would already be open. And if those things had happened, then we would have been at a point this year to talk about the next big thing at Magic Kingdom or wherever. But we're not done with that yet. They're not going to start talking about whatever the next huge thing at Disney World is going to be when they have a couple of significant projects that aren't even open. So I think that's part of why, people were expecting the big announcements, because on the old schedule we would have gotten them, but some shit happened, and that's why we are where we are.
Why people are refusing to acknowledge that, okay, well, a thing happened, and so we had to adjust, and every company on the planet has had to adjust. That this is not unique to Disney World.
I will say I was a little bit surprised. I think the most surprising thing for me was the public acknowledgement that apparently Dino Land is still in the sky phase.
Yeah.
I think that's the one part of Disney World where I think, whatever your opinion on Dino Land is, we were all expecting that's going to change at some point. We've known that for quite some time, that was probably due. I was a little bit surprised to learn that apparently it's not. I would have thought it would had been further along.
I feel like they're gonna punk us here, and what they're gonna do is they're gonna have a big asteroid hit it, and it'll just be go to Animal Kingdom one day, it'll be a crater, and it'll just say, oh yeah, that wiped out the dinosaurs, that big asteroid. So
we wiped out the dinosaurs and turned it into Epcot.
We'll have to see what's coming after. All right, let's put a bow on this particular episode by hitting our heroes and villains of the week. So the way this works, Dirk, is we like to say something good that happened during the last couple of weeks since the last podcast, and something not so good that happened during the last, obviously related to theme parks, in our case, Disney. So go ahead, Dirk. What is your, I forget, are we on an odd number or an even? I don't know. We'll start with heroes. What's your hero? Who's your hero of the week?
I guess my hero of the week is going to be and I'm now, of course, now I'm blanking on the name, the documentary film that was recently announced that will dive into, I believe the language used was the 30 years of debauchery in Disney World that led to the theft of, or the disappearance, because technically we don't know that Buzzy was stolen, technically. That led to a former cast member stealing a bunch of props from the park and selling them off, and and all of that.
Stolen Kingdom.
Thank you.
Documentary.
Stolen Kingdom. I think I'm very excited to see that when it eventually comes around. I think it's sort of wild that little thing that was like because that was literally like, you know, on Twitter or whatever amongst the theme park crowd, that was huge news.
Oh yeah, where's
but nobody else? But nobody else cared.
Yeah.
But now it's going to be a documentary film, which I think is awesome.
I guess
when's that due to come out?
They have not given any kind of date on it. But it's the announcement that it is happening came because the director of the most recent Jackass movie is producing it, and that was the kind of the main highlight of the news that the film is being put together. But I think it sounds like a very interesting film since it isn't specifically dealing with all of that, but apparently dealing with a lot of other things that apparently led to that.
Span 30 years exploring all the outrageous hijinks that have ensued at Walt Disney World Resort, including the theft of a very valuable audio animatronic from the once popular Cranium Command attraction, which is now defunct. The animatronic ended up for sale on the black market for close to $500,000.
See, I don't see that part. I had not.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
Because initially, like I know Buzzy's clothes were sold.
Right.
We knew that much.
Yeah.
But the exact fate of Buzzy had been unclear. And it wasn't even 100% certain that that the animatronic itself had been taken. It was, it may have just been like misplaced or something. So, I mean, it's all very interesting stuff. And I'm looking forward to that film. Cannot come soon enough.
All right. Who's your hero of the week, Zach?
The merchandise people at Disney. I mean, I know they always go all out for at least most anniversaries, and I'm glad that, they're recognizing that Epcot hitting 40 is something to celebrate. There's more here, but it's in the villain section.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I guess my hero of the week is going to be gosh, what was his name? The cast member that we talked to before Harmonious. William, the cast member that we talked to before Harmonious, who's been an Epcot cast member for a decade now, and he filled us in on some of the things that are going on. I guess we have found out. Now this is, secondhand information, right? But it seems like a credible kind of a guy. It's like, turns out that I guess they are going to remove the barges for the new nighttime show. That is something that is supposedly happening, which surprised me. I thought that they would just build onto that platform like they do World of Color. But anyway, we had a great conversation with William for a while, and I feel like he was a super nice cast member. And did we ever send him a cast compliment?
No, but I can do that. Okay,
great. Anyway, so my hero of the week, villain, William from Epcot. Now let's move into our villain of the week. Who's your villain of the week, Dirk?
Okay, I'm gonna struggle on this one. I don't know. Let's see. I might steal some of Zach's thunder, but I'm gonna say my villain of the week is all of the white Epcot merch, because it bothers me that so much Disney merch in general is white.
Yeah.
Because you can't wear that. Like I bought a 65th anniversary Disneyland hoodie just off of the website because they were closed at that point. Just because I wanted something from that anniversary, but I've literally worn it once because it's a pure white hoodie. And I love my hoodies in the fall, but I don't wear it because it's white, and I'm like, it's going to get dirty and it's going to get stained, and then I'm not going to be able to wear it anymore. And like with Epcot, I kind of get it. Like a lot of Epcot is just sort of white, but I think they need to do more. I
feel like when white shirts get wet from sweat and stuff, they suddenly become see-through. So it's like it's more of a I don't know why I care, but just thought I'd throw that in.
And I don't know about you, but when I wear white, because I'm so pale, I get really washed out. So I appreciate when merchandise is darker. And speaking of, I kind of like a few of the pieces of the Epcot 40th merchandise. but a lot of it is really boring. Like all the stuff with Figment on it that they've previewed is just gray and Figment's an outline. And, we're going to celebrate 40 years of imagination with a whole lot of not like there's color, but it's not the color that I want. So my villain of the week are the same merchandise designers who let some of that stuff go forward thinking it was a good idea. It's like I asked some folks, if anybody's going to be in Epcot on the 1st, if there's some merchandise that I want, can you grab it for me? And then I looked at it and I'm like, ugh, actually, hold on. Maybe not.
Yeah, I feel like William told us that, internally, they're not really doing a big Epcot 40th thing until after the 50th ends. So he was basically saying, look, a heads up, expect there to be a much bigger hoopla about Epcot 40th after March, after the official 50th anniversary ends, because Epcot is included in that 50th anniversary.
Sure.
It's like, they are going to do day of kind of, merchandise and in remembrance of it. But I think later in the year, we're going to see some actual
And I feel like that maybe tracks with the planning that they have going, because you can't really do a big Epcot 40th celebration when the middle of the park's still a giant construction zone.
That's true. It's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
All right. So my villain of the week are the 126,000 articles that I've read about how Tiana's Bayou Adventure does not live up to the promise that we were given through concept art. And every time I read these, I just want to scream and go, it's concept art. It's not a promise. It's just a concept art. And they're very upset that there's not a big tree on top of Splash Mountain like there is in the concept art.
I'm a little bummed that the tree's not there too. Like, sure, like I thought that was a cool part of the concept art, and it's apparently not going to be there. And sure, I'm kind of bummed about it, but I don't like.
Yeah.
Like that's not the ride.
No, it's not. Also,
that is such a small part of it.
Also, the people that make concept art are not industrial engineers and like have an idea of like what has to, to meet building codes, how you have this big fake tree on top of it. The other thing that really annoys me about it is if you look at the concept art, Louie and Tiana are both sitting in a boat outside of Splash Mountain, which you would be able to see from Frontierland, right? From the, they would literally be right next to the walkway. Well, no one actually thought they were going to build that boat with Tiana and Louie in there. It's concept art. It's like, That's not, it's like people just need to quit. There's reading the tea leaves, and then there's like, pushing them around and trying to make them form, the letter A or something inside the bottom of the cup. Right. I don't know, kind of a thing. So there you go. That was our heroes and villains of the week. Dirk, if somebody wants to follow you on the Twitter machines or any of the socials, where would they find you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at ChildDirk, which is CHILD_DIRK. And that's social media wise, that's the best place to find me. I think I have an Instagram that's the same username, but I forget to post. I'm not a picture guy, so I forget. Unless I'm actually in the parks, like that's when I post on Instagram. Yeah. And other than that, you can find my work at CinemaBlend.com.
CinemaBlend.com. Read about it all over there. Check out for Dirk Libbey, and leave some comments on his articles. You
actually can't leave comments on our articles.
No,
we disabled the comment section a couple of years ago, and there was much rejoicing.
Never read the comments section.
Well, now they don't have to because it's.
When we had it, I would occasionally I would, and I'd be like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this?
You use the word is in paragraph 4 when you clearly meant was, or something like that.
I do occasionally get people on, random people on Twitter, finding typos, and like I just, I thank them. I'm like, oh, thanks. I'll go fix that.
Now, if you ever call it Cinderella's Castle, I will call you out. If you ever call it, if you ever call Florida the happiest place on earth, I will call you out on that.
I do my best to not make those mistakes.
All right. Dirk, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been
Thanks for
a
having me,
delight,
guys. It was great.
pleasure. Yeah. You can always send us an email if you'd like to. It's don'tdodisney@gmail.com. You can also find us on the socials. Our information is down below in the doobly-doo if you're watching us on YouTube.
And much like Dirk, we have an Instagram, and sometimes I post things there, but I'm really bad about remembering to do so. So Twitter is also probably the best place to find us.
That's right. And if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, just know that there is a video version There's a video version available on our YouTube channel, WDW Aristocrats on YouTube. Check it out there. Hey, if you're listening to the video version or watching the video version and you'd like to listen to us in your car on an audio-only version, check us out anywhere where good podcasts are served.
If you're one of those people who can listen to podcasts while they drive because you still have to go into an office.
Or shopping, or maybe you're driving to Disney. It could be anything, but
also,
you know what?
Wait, who listens to podcasts when they're shopping?
Me. Anyway, all that is left for us to say is to, no, not to say, but to ask of you is to please, please, please don't do Disney
Without us and Dirk.
Absolutely.